It's about 5, 6 seconds. We're going to start the program Meldon Law Monday with our buddy Shane Mathews back in the house. Been back now 2 weeks. He'll join along with Dan Bond and Fran Spirit. Lots to talk about tonight. Trying to listen out of the corner of my ear to see if this Rays game is on. TV doesn't have it on tonight. Stand by. The Buddy Martin Show is on the air.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Evening, welcome to Meldon Law Monday. I'm Buddy Martin. The program airs Monday through Thursday. Standing by in the Orange Blue Room, Shane Mathews. This is what it looked like way out in Texas over the weekend when very quietly Jack Caglione became the all-time home run hitter at Florida. I dare say nobody else had this video. It wasn't even on TV, but thanks to Dan Bond, who was our intrepid correspondent. We'll have him on later. This is what it looked like. And that's what it looked like. Wasn't much else to talk about. 15-2. I got to confess, I would have turned it off, but I couldn't get it on TV. It wasn't on. I can never figure it out. Here's a guy who knows all about TV. Tonight I turned my television set on to watch the Orioles and Rays as I'm preparing for this, and I got nothing but a test pattern. How do you do it, Shane Mathews? Good evening to you, buddy.
I'm good, buddy. How are you? I'm not watching the Rays. I'm watching a little NBA playoffs.
All right, we're going to talk about that in just a minute. It's a controversial play. Everywhere you go today, you hear about it. We don't talk much NBA on this show.
Really?
We do watch it, though. No, we don't talk about it much. Well, we're small time. You know, you got the morning show, you got all the stars, and you guys talk. But we try to stick to the college ball most of the time, and a little baseball here and there, and every now and then. But with this time, if you're going to talk about it, now's the time. I talked to my friend Mike McGinnis tonight, who, as you know, was a longtime SEC official, about the call against Jokic. And for those who didn't see it, I think I'm going to describe it right. Tell me if I'm not, Shane. In the Denver game and the Suns game, and the ball bounced off, the ball went to the stands. And Jokic went over towards it, and a guy in a green shirt grabbed it and kind of held on to it for a second, and Jokic pulled it away from him. And the process, I guess the guy in the green shirt kind of, I wouldn't say he bumped him, but got a little close, and Jokic elbowed him like that, and the guy took a fall. I mean, it was one of the biggest. It looked like he played for Duke. You know, he flopped so good. Turns out he was the owner of the Suns. Well, that didn't factor into the decision with the referee, but Jokic got a foul, got a technical foul, which could have cost him, and they wound up losing the game. Not because of that. Now, today, the big question was, should Jokic be suspended? Because they play tomorrow night, and the series is tied 2-2, although the Suns are out, a couple of their star players. So now we waited today to find out what is going to happen. Shane, do you know?
I do not know, and I'd heard about it. I have not even seen it, buddy. But
Yeah,
all I know is the Joker dropped 53 on the Suns last
he
night.
did. He did.
He scored 53. He's an unbelievable player. Suns win it, so it's 2-2. But um, I I don't know. I can't really comment. I didn't even get to see it.
I'll tell you what happened. I watched it about 10 times, and I'll give you my opinion, which is all it is. But tonight, the NBA announced they would fine Jokic 25,000, which is a slap on the wrist today about what he makes, and he will not be suspended because that was the thing. You wouldn't want to see the MVP of the league tossed out on something involved the owner. First of all, what's the owner doing down there anyway, grabbing the basketball? I mean, I hate that these guys get down the front row, like someone said today. Might have been Colin Cowherd. I don't quote him very often, but they get on the sidelines, these great seats, and he gets his seats, obviously. And they get all liquored up, and it's really kind of crazy out there. So if I'm playing basketball and I want the ball back and it goes off in somebody's hands, I'm going to go get it and pull it. Now, he shouldn't have nudged him, which is all it was. And of course, the flop. And consequently, the play that was called. Well, they did the right thing. They gave him a $25,000 fine. It's a play on. But I don't know about you, but I think they're getting a little bit outrageous from some of the things they let fans get away with in the NBA on the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough as close as they are to the court, closest to the action. But as I said, I didn't see it, so I can't really comment.
Yeah. What did you see, Shaner? I watched a lot of baseball. I watched everything I could see. I watched the Rays. I watched the Gators. I took a kind of a couch potato weekend to rest up, and I watched a lot of ball. A little bit of golf, matter of fact, too. The kid from Denver who won was interesting. So what did you watch, and what do you want to comment on?
Well, I watched a little softball. Disappointing how that happened. First losing SEC year that Tim Walton's ever had. But now it's postseason play, so it doesn't really matter what you did in the regular season.
It's true.
I watched the Kentucky Derby. I watched a few races before the Kentucky Derby, and watched basketball and watched more golf than anything else.
Love the Derby. Watched it. I'll watch a couple races before. We had a little family pool, just our immediate family, and everybody gets to pick three numbers. And the three women who had Mage or Maj, however you want to pronounce it, the 8-horse. My wife, who always beats me in whatever she picks. My daughter, Laurie, and my niece Sherry all got the winning horse. So I was hoping I get to see my horse Forte run. It was trained here in Ocala.
Well, Joe from Titan MRI his family is part owner of that horse.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was there. He was there.
Okay. Oh, good.
But the horse had scratched.
Did you have him on?
No, we text. I wasn't aware of that until I
wasn't aware of it.
I saw Wednesday, I guess, him posting about it because his wife had been up there all week and he was on his way flying there.
Okay.
I just texted him and he's like, "Yeah, I'm on my way." And I saw pictures of him and all the people in charge or that own Forte, but unfortunately didn't get to run.
Yeah. He got scratched, and he's scratched now for the Preakness, too. That's the latest news. Beautiful horse. My friends, good friends, the O'Farrells, who own Ocala Stud Farm, train that horse. They train a lot of Derby horses. They've had 6 Derby winners out there. And so I didn't know much about the horse that I read. And anymore, you can't get information anywhere unless you know somebody, because the papers don't cover it unless you have a contact. And I did eventually get a hold of mine. But no, that's too bad. That's horse racing, Shane. It's like you all of a sudden you can't go. They'll let you go. So, and given the problems they're having with the horses, the deaths they had not related to necessarily the racing, but whether was it 5 or 6 horses that they were in Louisville, Churchill Downs, that died or were euthanized. So that's not a good thing. But it's a beautiful event, and it was fun to watch, and always love it. All right, so Shane, I don't know if you saw this. I think you did. I haven't heard your show this week. I've been tied up, but the latest on the DraftKings and the over under. All right,
I saw it.
I saw it. And, we might have talked about it on yours. I don't think we did. But anyway, point is that if you haven't seen it, I think most people have by now. They've got what they have the over under is, and I got the list down here, which I can gladly be able to read it and tell folks what they want to know. But no shocks necessarily, although LSU. Let me see if I can find this. Hold on, I got it here somewhere. So anyway, it has Florida. The big part has Florida as 5. Here it is, 5.5 over under, which I think might be about
way over. Way over.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get to you on that part, but 5.5. That's what they're betting. It's DraftKings. Okay, yeah. And here's the rest of this. If people
what's interesting to that is we talked about it on my show this morning, and I had like 3 listeners said that ESPN has the Gators favored in 8 of their 12 games.
Yeah, I think they did probably. Depends on what.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, this is how they're betting. The other was
no. So, but what I'm saying is, if you think that Vegas has you favored in 8 games,
right?
Why would they set your team total at 5.5? Makes no sense.
Well,
Florida will win more than 5.5. They're going to win 8 games.
Different polls, different row, whatever. But you're right. Let me just read this off real fast. I got the small type today. Over under. Georgia 11.5, Alabama 10.5, LSU
under.
9. Okay, you want to take it one at a time? Georgia 11.
Georgia ain't going to lose a game.
Okay, so Alabama.
But I don't think Alabama wins 10 games this year.
All right, so you're under. Just go ahead and comment. LSU 9.5.
They'll go over.
Tennessee 9.5.
Under.
Ole Miss 7.5.
I haven't looked at their schedule. They're going to be so bad on defense. I don't know if they can win. They might win 8, but 7. That one's about right.
Well, you got to go over or under. But anyway, Arkansas.
I'll get back to you on that one.
All right. Well, we have to pick all today. Arkansas 7.5. We'll be talking about it all summer. Texas A&M 7.5. Okay.
I think A&M's going to have a good year.
I agree with you on A&M. I think A&M might be a little bit of a dark horse
because Bobby Petrino is going to make a difference.
Take a little pressure off Jimbo. I think they're going to win 9. South Carolina 6.5.
That's about right. They're a bad football team. I don't know how they won their games last year.
South Carolina, Kentucky, Missouri, and Mississippi State all 6.5.
Yeah, I'd have to look at their schedule, but Florida will win 8 games.
Florida 5.5, and by the way, Vanderbilt. I think I'd take the over 3.5.
You know? I don't know who their out of conference games.
Well, they're a better team than that. They have some really easy games out of conference. Anyway, that's what it was about. Now I'm gonna get back to you on this. We discussed this a little bit, and you chastised me for being too negative when you came back and you told me you chewed me out, so I should be so negative.
I did?
No, I'm just kidding you. But you were very, very positive. You flatly said on the show last week, well, Florida's going to win 8 games, and Mertz is going to have a big year.
Well, I didn't say he's going to have a big year. I said he's going to be a consistent football player.
Yeah, okay, whatever you said, but you did give a vote of confidence, and I take your word for that. So I'm looking today online. I see this guy wrote this. I thought, if I didn't know better, Shane Mathews wrote that. You know, this is a guy. This is to you. It was to JC and you, and it says, "Here's why the Florida Gators football team will win at least 8 games in 2023, if not more." This again comes to you and JC, I guess. The roster has been flipped. Last year, the majority of the roster was still Dan Mullen players that came out. Players that had come out since they departed. Who came out were not motivated and bought it and did not buy in. 2, more consistent play on offense in the short and medium passing. More game starting experience. 3, defense will be at least top 50. I'm predicting top 30. We lost several games last year because of the defense. Majority of losses were 1-score losses last year. Better defense will win majority of games. Then and add in a better roster, consistent offense. 5, because the roster was flipped, players that have bought in want to win. And finally, he says, I'm predicting the Gators hold Utah under 14 points. Okay, that's
Wow.
what this guy is saying. And I was saying, did Shane Mathews write that? Because you said some of those things the other day.
Yeah, but I didn't say we're going to hold Utah to under 14 points.
But you did say they'd win 8.
I do think they'll win 8, buddy, because here's what people look at. They look at what happened last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last year has zero bearing on what's going to happen this year. Okay, and maybe I have my orange and blue glasses on, but when you look at the schedule, when it's Kentucky, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, and Missouri, in my opinion, Florida's better than all those teams. I don't know if I said Vanderbilt. I don't care if we lost to them last year. That has nothing to do with this year. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's just like, when people say that team's beaten 30 straight years. Well, the game that you're going to play that week has nothing to do with what happened 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. So Florida, in my opinion, is better than all those teams. Does that mean you're going to win the game? I don't know. But that's why I have us penciled in at 8 wins. Okay. I do not think we can beat LSU unless a lot of stuff happens, bounces our way in Baton Rouge, and I do not think we can beat Georgia at all. So, but every other game is winnable.
Okay. Did you happen to read any of this stuff that came out of the Sarasota Gator Club meeting? The reporters are not allowed to go in there and write about what he says, but Billy has a little pre-speech conference with a few writers who were there. And Keith Niebuhr was one of the ones there. And he asked this question. I think I'm quoting this correctly. He said the two things that people don't understand about the portal, and you may have known this and maybe said it. Number one, we wasted, basically, he said, we wasted time last year on players we wanted in the portal, only to find out they couldn't pass, couldn't get in.
Well, you're talking about admissions, yeah.
Yeah, it's part of it. And then the next thing was, he said, we also got to make sure we have time to do our diligence on the physicals, make sure we don't get someone's damaged goods, And those were two of the things he brought up. So I thought those were very important points. We'll be talking about this line all summer long until we get to the big game that weekend. But I was glad to hear Billy come out and say a little something about that. Let me stop this. We're just going to have your birthday.
Well,
here's a guy we need to sing happy birthday to right there.
Oh, it's Scott's birthday?
Yeah, it's his birthday.
Happy birthday, Scott.
Yeah, how old he is?
The admissions things, I've been harping on admissions for the last 10, 15 years. It is totally ridiculous, not just for athletes, but for parents, parents that went to school here, and their parents, and then the great grandparents, and then they can't get their kid in who has a 4.0 and made a 30 on an ACT because they're in state. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That's painful because I have a lot of friends who've been in there.
I mean, my daughter didn't even get into school.
Yeah.
Here, my son didn't even get into school, and he had a 30-something on the ACT and had a 4.4 in the Cambridge program. And the only reason he got accepted to Florida was because he was a preferred walk-on. So it's totally ridiculous. And I know that did hurt us in the portal last year. It is what it is. You just have to deal with it. And from an injury standpoint, you would think, college football is a little bit different than the National Football League. They know everything that's wrong with you. And I'm sure some schools can hide it from other schools. But when you get to the NFL, they know all that stuff. But, the portal's interesting for sure.
Yeah, a few comments there. They're liking your 8 wins stuff. So it's a positive spin on something. There hasn't been a whole lot of positive spin out there. I think Gator fans are
why not? That's what I want to know.
Well, like I said to you last week on the show, what do you base it on? You have to have
okay, let me ask you this. Was everybody excited before last year with Billy Napier in year 1 going into the season?
I don't know if excited is the right word, but they were enthused, yeah.
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't you be enthused this year?
Well, I'm saying to you, I'm not saying I'm not. I'm saying what people are wanting to know, what can they hang it on? What is the tangible evidence? If you're going to go do a story or a show or whatever, you have to have some evidence when you're talking about something.
Well, my evidence, this was my evidence would be because you had no evidence going into last year other than a new coach. You had no evidence. You had a bad football team, still a bad football team. Who were the best players for the Florida Gators last year?
The ones that came from Louisiana, but they're not playing Louisiana anymore.
No. Not just those. Every player that Billy Napier was responsible for produced. So if I'm a Gator fan, I hang my hat on their evaluation process, and we'll see what happens.
I can't let you get away with that because it's like saying, well, when McElwain was here, the players he recruited did well, but the others didn't. Can't be that selective. It's one team thing. It's I'm not saying that.
I know, but my point is the guys that produced the best on this football team, he was solely responsible for them.
Well, I mean, did that happen with Urban? No, it didn't. I mean, I get what you're saying.
We're not talking about Urban. We're talking about Billy Napier.
Well, I understand that. What I think
again, buddy, we can't. We like I said, there's no reason to talk about what happened in the past. We got to look to the future. And
I'm okay with that, but I want you to tell me. And again, I'm not. I might pick 7, 8. I don't know yet what I'm going to do. I'm trying to decide. But when someone wants to be a critic and say, "Okay, Shane, I want to buy in, but what do you give me? Can you give me something? Can you give me names?
Yeah.
Can you give me rosters? Can you give me offense?
I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now, there will be better defensively. Okay.
I sure hope so.
They're going to be more consistent. They're going to be more consistent on offense. Okay.
Okay.
That wins you football games.
Okay. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that when you talk about what's your body of evidence, it's hard to come up. That's what Gator fans are wanting. That's why I encourage Billy to be more forthcoming with fans. I guess he is in some of these meetings. I don't go to them. I don't know. I'm just saying. Anyway, that's that point. Now, I do got to do a commercial real quick, and just don't go away. I'm going to get my man on, Jeffrey. Let's do the short one tonight, and we'll come back and roll with the other. Let's see if go get Coach Meldon. Hang on one second here. By the way, they do a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff. All right.
Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Well, I'm joining the band, of course. Since Meldon Law is the official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, I want to help.
Dad, we're litigators. Let's stick to helping people in the courtroom.
Well, can we still hang out and jam a little bit? At Meldon Law, we won't back down.
All right, thanks very much, Jeffrey Meldon. He won't back down. And Shane and I having a very, shall we say, not heated discussion, but an interesting one about the future of this football team. And we're all hoping it'll be better, and we'll see what's what. Now, let me say.
I have a question for you, buddy.
Yes, sir.
What, in your opinion, would make you think this team has a chance to be pretty decent next year?
If I could put my eyeballs on some of the things they're doing and talk to the coaches in depth.
But my question is, okay, let's say you got to go to practice every day.
Yeah.
You got to go sit in meetings. You got to watch Graham Mertz throw. You got to watch defense.
Yeah.
That's going to make your decision different?
Well, of course, I don't know anything right now. I mean, I want to know more about the offensive line. Going to run the ball. I want to know how good they are, how they sink. Are they, can they?
But just because you go to see, I think practice sometimes. People
you asked me what I wanted. I mean,
I know, but I just okay. No, I got you.
I got to see something. If I said to you, the Orlando Guardians, take a look at this team. What would you like to see in the team before you went there? You would have. And you could probably tell.
I saw the players we drafted. I knew we weren't going to be very good.
Okay, well, there you go. You knew more about the players. You had access to information. We don't know much about the players other than know it.
Yeah.
The times we've been able to interview the players, like we had a series, Ben Troop, I interviewed like 15 guys over a period of, 3 months. And I had a little better feeling about what I thought I knew a little more. But anyway, I guess I'm just ignorant. I just don't know. I hate to I would not want to bet money because I don't know enough about it. So I'm hopeful it's going to happen. Let's talk about something real positive here. Your teammate, a guy that, has represented himself and his family and the University of Florida. Today, went back to his alma mater as the head coach of the P.K. Young Blue Wave. What can you say about Willie Jackson?
Well, Willie's a heck of a football player. I mean, he comes from a great family of long-time Gators, and it's good to see him get an opportunity to coach. I think Willie's still got another kid that may play for him. I've lost track. But no, it was a good hire by P.K. Young, and it's kind of late in the situation. I mean, I know that they had like an interim coach or somebody helping out during spring ball that started last week, and I guess Willie will take over tomorrow. But no, it's cool. It'd be good to see him out there coaching them up.
And also the fact that his dad is a famous guy. You know, people should know the story. A lot of people don't connect the dots. Realize that the Willie Jackson Sr. was one of the two first players to integrate at the University of Florida. And I saw him going in with he and Leonard George. I remember him quite well. Always conducted himself well. I had heard he wanted to coach. Matter of fact, I called to Coach Spurrier about it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he's been coaching. He's been helping at Eastside. He coached Coach Spurrier at the Apollos.
Right.
He was like the coach or was athletic director at Edward Waters College a few years ago.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's been coaching a lot.
Yeah. All right, Shane, who you got on the show? I'm gonna give you a quote before you go, but who you got on the show tomorrow?
I have you, buddy, and then
oh man, that's not.
I might have Willie on it. Willie's terrible at getting
good.
back to people.
You got to learn how to do that.
I'm gonna have Graham
Willie
Hall.
on, I'll just sit back and listen.
I'm gonna have Graham Hall as well. So
Graham's a good man.
I know Graham will definitely be on, and you will be on. We'll see if Willie shows up.
Okay, well, Graham is, we call him Minister of Information because you've been doing it for us a long time. Good man. Here's a quote today. This guy was in town today, and he texted me and said, I'll be here today. Let's get together. And it turned out he got involved in a golf tournament. We couldn't make it, but Urban Meyer. Apparently he told On 3, I haven't talked to him, says, quote, it's hard to say Texas doesn't have the best roster in college football right now.
Texas?
Texas.
I don't know about that.
Well, okay.
It ain't better than that team up in Athens. I can promise you that.
Well, could be, but it is in Urban Meyer's mind. By the way, that is the most watched show, college football show on that he does, Big Noon show. So, all right, my man. Thank you. I'll see you in the morning. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right, the great Shane Mathews, always bringing it. Appreciate that. Tomorrow morning we get to go with Shane and see what's going on. We're standing by in the Orange Blue Room. Our buddy Dan Bond. We're going to also get to you in a minute. We'll let you hear let's do this right now. Titan MRI real fast. Titan MRI. And I'm going to tell you, I played Dan's video earlier with the home run. He's the only guy I know of who got the home run, the record-breaking home run by Caglione. Stand by.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Thanks very much, Jeff Cardoza. Look, watch this. Well, it wasn't very much there to be happy about, but that was the moment, and Dan was there. That was his video. I don't think anybody else in the country got that. Let's say hello to our special correspondent from Texas, Dan Bond. Good evening to you, Dan.
Good evening. How you doing, buddy?
All right. How was your trip out to College Station?
besides the baseball, it was fun. Had good seats. The fans are great out there and very knowledgeable. There was quite a few Gator fans there, all above where the Gator dugout was for that video was a lot of the family members, so they were great to talk to and hang out with. There was Gators scattered around. So we had our little group. You could hear a little bit of them cheering when Jack hit that home run, and had some good seats. So Friday was great. It was back and forth. Gave it the home run to tie it in the middle of the game, and then they ended up winning with a home run, I think in the 8th inning in that first game. Had the fireworks, so I had to joke with the fans that thanks for the winning fireworks for the Gator victory. And then the Saturday game was that run rule game. And I would say it's a new rule, but that was my first run rule game, but on the wrong side. So that was brutal to sit there and watch all those walks and the 2-0s and the 3-0s and the hit batters, and they just couldn't get control that day. And I was thinking to myself, watch after that 8-run A&M inning, Jack's going to hit that home run as he was up the next inning. And sure enough, he hit it when it didn't really mean a whole lot except for the record book. And then, man, yesterday's game made it even worse, with that walk off. And it was just
game, painful
game. And, it was hot. It was like in the mid-90s. A lot of wind. So I was actually surprised Florida didn't get more runs, didn't have more hits. I mean, the bottom of the order really struggled the whole weekend. Yeah. And, it was just raging wind out on Saturday. And, but it's a good place to go. You got good view wherever you sit, lots of good food there, lots of choices. And the fans, the first night, they were really on the umpire behind home plate. So he was getting jeered, even when the Gators were up to bat, because the guy was all over the place as far as
there was really not a well-called game. I saw it, and really not consistent at all.
Yeah, that was frustrating, but hopefully Florida can turn around. They've dropped 2 out of 3 SEC series. They've got Vandy coming up. Vandy dropped their series. They're not exactly hot, but Florida can kind of cinch up that East this weekend, and they can, move on up for the SEC tournament. They've got to get up to a few more wins, so maybe 5 of the 6, 4 of the 6 of the remaining games to get that super regional hosting, which they definitely want because all these teams are really good that they're going to meet up in the super regionals. We'll go ahead and give them the regionals that they're going to advance out of that. And if they're on the road for supers, it may be a coin flip for sure.
Our colleague Vance Beard, who's standing by in the orange and blue room, we'll pop him in a second, wrote, the losses were quite painful because not only did the Gators miss out on a chance to take the lead in the SEC East, but they made their path to the top 8 national seed a bit more difficult. The Gators will be at home against Vanderbilt this weekend, leading a sweep, not only to take over first, but to keep their hopes of winning 20 SEC wins alive. So that's what Franz wrote, and he'll be standing by. All right, what's going on? Softball team's going to do something in the postseason. They've struggled.
Oh, man. Rough softball season. First losing season of Walton's career at Florida. So, like Shane said, it's postseason, so it's new season. But they're going to have to go on the road, probably to FSU, and crawl out of that, and then go on to from there. So who knows where they'll end up? But they're not going to be in Gainesville, which will be bad for the city. That's a big attendance grabber there when they have the regionals and the super regionals. So I'm sure they're not liking that either. Yeah. But if they get hot with pitching, they've got the batters that they can score some runs and they can make a run here if Hightower and Trilicek can find the strike zone and quit walking batters, kind of like the baseball team. and quit hitting batters. There's a lot of that going on both diamonds this year, unfortunately.
France, what do you think?
Well, the softball team could host a regional, but to do that, they're going to have to win 3 games in Fayetteville to do that. If they were to win 3 ball games, they could host. But that's what it would take. I mean, they're 35. They've won 35 games. If they were to get to 38, they got an outside shot at a top 16 seed. Right now, I think their RPI is 21, so they would have to. They've got to do some damage in Fayetteville, and that's going to be difficult because if they win their first game, which is against Kentucky, means it's a very winnable game. Okay, then they've got to play Dollywood, USA in round 2. And Tennessee's just having one hot season.
Run the regular season, right?
Yeah. Well, when Florida played them, the Gators found creative ways to lose. I mean, that's just the best way I could put it. The Gators found creative ways to lose. Just like yesterday, they find creative ways to lose ball games. They did it Saturday. They did it Sunday. They should have swept at Kentucky. And if they had swept at Kentucky, they finished 12-12 regular season. And that would have put them at 37 regular season wins. Yeah. They would have been in line to host. But, opportunity lost.
Yeah, that's the opportunities you wrote. By the way, here's something changing topics real quick before I let Dan go. This is one of our plugged-in listeners, David Arnold, been with us for a long time. He says, just heard Coach Napier talk in Panama City. Great guy. A QB is coming through portal. All placeholders for Lagway. Okay, your comments. Dan, you first, and then France.
Yeah, you figure he's gonna bring in somebody. So, they definitely need some more competition at that position.
Mm-hmm. And France?
Well, he's going to bring somebody in. I laughed today. I read Matt Hayes' column. It rates Graham Mertz as the number 14 quarterback in the SEC. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to enough people who saw him in practice. We did not see anything at the spring game. That was entirely by design. I've had that confirmed by 3 different people so far. That was entirely by design. Get it up there, just play it, don't get anybody hurt, and show nothing. And they absolutely showed nothing. But that's what he intended to do. He wants that chip on his shoulder. He really and truly wants that chip on his shoulder.
Well, he's got it. That's for sure.
A lot of people think he's going after the Thompson kid who started out at Texas and is leaving Nebraska as a graduate. He's a graduate transfer, so that would make sense in one respect, in that it brings you a guy that's only going to take a scholarship for 1 year. It would not affect next year's scholarships at all.
Yeah, but he's not going to help the team this year. He won't have the offense in time.
Well, Thompson's not bad. Thompson is not bad, and he's a very bright kid who, as I was told, made an incredibly high score on his SAT. So he's the kind of guy that can learn stuff in a hurry. And let's face it, Graham Mertz knew the entire offense long before there was ever spring practice. Yeah. And people marvel at what a command he has, at least from a verbal standpoint. You ask him a question, he can tell you what he's going to do and so forth like that.
All right, let Dan go. Dan's got to go to work. But Dan, do a job out in Texas. Fran, stand by for a second. And appreciate your writing, appreciate your report. Dan Bond from out in Texas. Friends, we're going to get to this in a second, but the DraftKings, I'm sure you've seen it by now, the over-unders, which has Florida listed at 5.5.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a little disconcerting, I would say. I don't remember
Not really.
When's the last time you remember Florida being that low in a preseason?
Well, all I can say is Billy Napier is eating this up because that's exactly what he wants. He wants the chip on this team's shoulder. He wants to go in. He wants to go in as an underdog in Utah. Guarantee you, he wants that.
Well,
Does not. He's going to be anyway, but he really wants. He would be very, very happy for Florida to go in there as a 10, 12-point underdog. He'd be extremely happy with that. He wants that underdog status. He knows that. I've talked to enough people who tell me he knows he's got a good football team next year. It's going to be a better football team. Now, let me preface what I just said with this. There are a lot of teams that are better football teams from one year to the next that it doesn't necessarily show with a tremendous improvement in the one lost column. But I think people would be, and I think they'll win more than 7 ball games. But let's just play a little hypothetical here. Let's say you go 7-6, but instead of losing games 48-47 or whatever it was they lost games by last year, now all of a sudden you're losing games 24-23 or something like that. You're right in there with it. You're competitive. The defense is playing well. You're getting good, decent, not great, but decent production out of your offense. People will look at that as improvement and they'll tolerate that. What they won't tolerate, I'm convinced, is another season where the defense, you're giving up 41 points, you're losing a game 41-38. People have had enough of that. 2020, look at what happened. If they could, I keep going back to that Alabama game in the SEC. One stop. They're one stop away from being in the college football playoff. They're one stop away from ending Alabama's undefeated season. They're one stop away from the SEC championship. One stop. And what can we say about if Dan Mullen, he goes 6-7 and he has 2 or 3 ball games there that they get a stop? What can you say? He may still be the coach here.
Yeah. Well, you got to win the close ones. That's the whole key. And talking to coaching friends of mine, and Coach Spurrier likes to make a thing out of it when he talks about it. Talks about Urban. He says Urban won his close games, and he did.
He did. And he inherited a better situation than Billy Napier did. He inherited a 3-year starter at quarterback. A 2-year starter at quarterback. He inherited, let's face it, he inherited one lights-out defense. So, it's all apples and oranges, though. We can sit there and talk about what could have been, what should have been, what might have been until we're blue in the face. But you still got to get out there and do it. And, Billy's got to have an improved football team this year. And I believe it will translate into 8 or more wins. But if he's 7-6 and the games are highly competitive and we're not giving games away with stupid penalties, we're not giving games away by giving up 10 touchdowns or whatever it is, I'll look at that as, okay, the future is looking really, really bright. As Tom Petty wrote in his song, Into the Great Wide Open, the future was wide open.
Dr. Tom Petty, now, got his honorary degree. So, all right, so let's get back down to the, by the way, the Rays won the game. I'm grateful for that. Although I'm really ticked off at Bally. I turned on the TV tonight and no Rays baseball. What's going on with those people? Paying for that stuff from MLB, not getting it. So here's the deal. You saw the over-unders on DraftKings. We don't have to break them all down right now. We have all summer. And do you know Antonio Carter, by the way? That's
No,
the guy that, he's the guy who transferred from Rhode Island in the portal. And apparently he got an offer from the Gators, according to him. And also Kentucky, West Virginia, Mississippi, should be Minnesota, Baylor, Louisville, Texas A&M, Oregon State, Wisconsin, etc. They offered also. Carter started 11 games, I guess, for Rhode Island, and had 60 tackles, 10 pass breakups, 4.5 tackles for loss, 1 interception, 2-year starter for the Rams, accumulated 105 tackles, etc., etc. So I don't know what that means, but I guess especially at Rhode Island. Although we know some other coaches who came from Rhode Island who did pretty well. Some coached in Florida, as you know. All right, so friends, I'm reading 2 things I want to ask you about. First of all, Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South, who I happen to respect, came up with some Heisman odds that weren't his today. And then I want to talk to you about this over-under business and how Florida wound up with 5.5. Which one do you want first?
Oh, you just pick one, and I'm going with it.
All right, let's go with the Heisman odds. All right, this is from FanDuel supposedly, and Connor. So I had to stop and think who these people were, because let's be honest, there's some new names in there that we have to get used to. Alabama, Ty Simpson plus 4,000. Tyler Buckner, 5,000. Jalen Milroe, I guess, is from Tennessee, right? Or is that the guy?
No, he's from Alabama.
Okay, all right, 10,000. So the favorite there, Ty Simpson. Georgia, Carson Beck, plus 3,000. Brock Vandergift, 8,000. That's all he mentioned. Any thoughts about that?
I think Ty Simpson's going to be the quarterback at Alabama. That's what I'll say about that. I don't think Tyler Buckner is. People say, well, why would Nick have brought him in?
I would say that. Why would Nick brought him in if he wasn't going to play him?
Well, I don't know that he's not going to play. I think Nick wanted more competition out of there. I think Nick knows who his quarterback's going to be. I don't think he believes it's going to be Jalen Milroe, although Jalen Milroe is a great runner. But Jalen Milroe is not going to win you games with his arms. And I think you look at Jalen Milroe and you think of Florida 2 years ago. Oh my gosh, you got to have a guy that can complete passes and to your team and not the other guys. And I think he knows that one of those quarterbacks is going to transfer, and he wants somebody with some experience in case his top guy who's never started a game gets hurt or something. That's just my opinion on that. I think Nick knows who his quarterback's going to be, basically. And again, I think it's going to be Ty Simpson.
Okay. Kudos to you from Mary Helen McCallum about your information. She appreciates that. All right, DraftKings. The numbers out here. And you got to start someplace. Georgia being 11.5, Alabama 10.5, and LSU 9.5, Tennessee 9.5. There's a group of 7.5. Ole Miss, Arkansas, Texas A&M, South Carolina. Texas A&M, South Carolina 6.5, Kentucky 6.5, Missouri 6.5, and then Mississippi State 6.5, and Auburn 6.5. All those in Florida is 5.5, and Vandy 3.5. I might be tempted to take Vandy out of all those. They're going to win more than 3.5 games. All right, so the big one to focus on is Florida at 5.5. As you said earlier, they're going to use that for motivation. I can see why, with uncertainty in quarterback, and really a lot of changes in the staff, and no evidence to go beyond that. you and Shane are a lot more positive about it. I would like to be, but I just don't know enough about this team, friends, to make me want to go over that. I think they're right about 6 is what I would say. I might say 6, but that's about it. Now, if I can see some more things this summer, I could go 6.5, go 7, 7.5, depending. I just don't know above, except everything's hearsay, everything. You have more friends who see practices and things. Shane does, I don't. But right now, I'm stuck. So unstick me.
Well, here's why I say that the Gators will be a better football team this year. And it starts with basically one thing. He's going to have the offensive line, and he's going to have the running backs to control the football. The Florida Gators will control the football. He's built for low scoring games. I don't think we're going to see shootouts like we saw last year or the year before or in 2020. I think we're going to see low scoring ball games. I think the defense is going to be much improved. This is going to be, I think he's taking the approach that the Gators took in 1984 when they had John L. Williams, they had Neil Anderson, they had Lorenzo Hampton, and the idea was to grind. And then when other teams came in, brought their safeties in to try to stop the run, Kerwin Bell threw over the top. Kerwin Bell and Ricky Nattil. Frankie. What is it? Frankie McDonald? No, Frankie McDonald. I'm trying to think of his name. But Ray McDonald's dad was Ray McDonald Sr. That whole group, they had good receivers who could catch the ball. And they were open a lot more than they really had the talent to be open because the running threat was so good. That's what we're going to see out of the offense. Now, the question is this. Can the defense be as improved as what I've heard they're going to be? I think the offense, I don't think we're going to have to worry about the offense. I think they're going to get their points. I think they're going to control the football. You've seen Montrell Johnson. You've seen Trevor Etienne. You know what these guys can do. And my gosh, Cam Carroll came off. We saw him in the spring game. Trayon Webb, another one. And if they get Alton McCaskill, who ran for 961 yards as a freshman at Houston, Florida will have as good a running backs room as there is in the SEC, maybe the best. This is if you can run the football, you can win football games, buddy.
But can you run the football like they used to? And it's more of a passing game now. It's more difficult to just run. There are very few teams that can line. LSU did it to Florida, 3 years ago? They kept running the same way over again. Yeah, but you got to have superior personnel. The question is, can Billy get enough personnel in there to be able to actually dictate the pace of the game? Because you know and I know what he's looking for. He's looking for a little bit of the Dean Smith four corners, a little bit, so he can keep the ball from the other team. Because he knows his defense has no depth, and they're going to be better. I think the secondary might be a lot better with Corey Raymond running things back there. And we'll see about Austin Arthur.
See, I'll disagree with you about the depth. I think they've got depth this year, and I don't think
defensive line.
I think so.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Look at the guys they brought in.
Well, they don't have Geron Dexter right off the bat, which is a big loss. But anyway.
No, but Banks and Jackson are two huge guys that came in there. The kid that they signed out of Alabama, Will Norman too. The kid out of that they signed out of IMG Academy, McClellan, who had a good
McClellan. Had a good spring. He did have a good spring. You're right.
He had a good freshman year as well. The linebackers are going to be vastly improved. I loved what Ventrell Miller brought to the table. Hustled, played hard, etc. Taraja Mitchell's a better football player. He's a better football player. This is a guy that was voted team captain unanimously at Ohio State last year. And he got hurt. He came here, and he was absolutely beastly. Manny Nunnery, the kid that came in from Houston, just absolutely everybody raves about him, and they say that what's going to blow your mind is when you see this guy on special teams. A couple years ago, he was the runner-up for the National Special Teams Player of the Year. And he's a very fast guy who started out his career at safety and became a linebacker. Now, who does that sound like? Does that sound a lot like old Howard Schnellenberger, what he started doing at Miami, and Jimmy Johnson carried it on, where you'd sign safeties, you'd make linebackers out of them. You sign linebackers, you made defensive ends out of them. You signed defensive ends, and you made defensive tackles out of them. But you went for the speed. I think they're going to be I think the defense is going to be a better defense. I think they got more depth.
I'm willing to be open about it. I just don't know that. Let me just save the remaining minutes for somebody that's kind of special with the news today about him. First, I'll tell you about Red Star Medical Research, proven reputation, high quality, patient-centered clinical research facility in downtown Ocala. Red Star brings cutting-edge clinical research trials to Ocala in areas like Alzheimer's, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraines, fibromyalgia, many other things and affect our community. So if you'd like to be a part of that as they do their research, you can contact them on renstar.net and find out about these clinical trials. They've been doing them since 1998, participated in more than 700, almost 800 clinical trials, containing to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the medical industry. Check them out, renstar.net. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Good news today for the new PK Young high school coach, former Blue Wave himself, coming back to be the head coach at PK Young, Willie Jackson. What a legacy he's got, friends.
Well, I like that. Goodness, the Jacksons, you got to admit, the Jacksons were awfully good to Florida during their time. And Khalil Jackson is in line supposedly to get a scholarship to be put on scholarship as a wide receiver. And I like the way he looks. Now, you're talking about a kid that's about 6'3" and about 220 pounds. And
nice catch in the spring game.
Yeah. All I can say is if he can run the slant like his old man could, I'm all for him, especially. Yeah. I have never seen anybody who is more automatic running a slant than Willie Jackson was for Steve Spurrier. That was kind of like Doring in the fade and Willie in the slant. I mean, two plays that they were just money in the bank.
And, of course, the grandfather who was one of two players to integrate Florida football.
Ian Leonard George.
Ian Leonard and Willie. So this is, when you say the Jacksons around here, we don't mean Michaels. The Jacksons are a famous family, and it's congratulations to Willie and to all of them out there. That's the one. And isn't it amazing? Think of the players they've gotten from PK Young all these years. I can go back to Bernie Parrish. Bernie Parrish played there, and he lettered in free sports at Florida. Played in football, basketball, and baseball. I was on the baseball team with it. So, I mean, the PK keeps Terry Jackson. I can go on. Chris Story, etc. Many, many players to PK Young. So, congratulations, Willie. May the blue wave rock, man.
Well, I guarantee you the PK Young has been good. A guy named Douglas Adair Dickey came from PK Young. He was the quarterback at PK Young, and my uncle Don Van Sickle was the center. Lifetime buddies who just went through school together. And my uncle didn't play football in college and went on to the CIA, and then went with Procter and Gamble after that. But Douglas Adair Dickey had himself a career out of PK Young.
He did. So congratulations, Francis. Keep writing the good stuff on Gatorade, folks. You need to go sign up for Gatorade right now. If for no other reason, just to read what Fran's writes. He dominates. You got a lot to write about this summer. We'll talk about some of those storylines later on in the week. On Thursday, we'll have our buddy Ben Troop on, and Lauren Meadows will bring it to you from the standpoint of the Orange and Blue Bloods. Have a good week, friends. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks a bunch.
All right. Franz Beard, the Iron Duke. Always appreciate Francis Cruz. All right, folks, we'll wrap up the night. Rays win. McClanahan gets his 7th win. He's 7-0. So there is some justice in the world. The baseball gods aren't always bad. I'll say good night. Tomorrow night, we got David Whitley back here. Don't forget, on Wednesday night, we have Allie Peak Wilbur, along with David Bolton. And, of course, Thursday, Ben Troop and the guys. So, all right. Thanks, folks. Have a great night. Come back tomorrow, same time, same station. Good night.